Hey guys, welcome to another video. If you're new here, my name is Jaden and I'm currently in the Year 13 summer holiday and I'm waiting for my A-level results, hopefully going to uni in September to study dentistry. And I'll be talking through my 10 top tips that I used to get myself 10 8s and 9s when I did my GCSEs. Just for a bit of context, we were the second year to have this new specification of GCSE where we got graded in 8s and 9s, and I managed to get 6 9s and 4 8s. So that equates to 10 A stars, which I was very happy about. And I've now done my A-levels in maths, physics, chemistry and biology, which was not very fun and probably one of the hardest moments of my life. I'm not trying to boast or anything, but I just wanted to give this video a bit of reliability and a bit of context, so I'm not just waffling and you can actually trust me. And my first point is you need to know your motivation to succeed. And this is asking yourself why you want to study, why you want to do well in your GCSEs, or why do you want to succeed in your exams. It will be different for every person. Some people might want to impress their parents, impress themselves. Some people might want to use GCSEs as a stepping stone to get to A-levels to do what they want to do in the future. For me, it was a bit of both, but I also envisioned my goal in advance. I imagined myself walking down these library stairs that we have at our school, and it's a really strange story, but I heard one of my friends talking about how one of his siblings had received 10 A stars, and we were standing on the library stairs during this storytelling moment, and I also imagine myself from that point on, me walking out of the doors, heading down these stone stairs along the railings, and me holding this certificate of 10 A stars, and I would just imagine it every day when I was working. And whenever I asked myself why I was studying this hard, why I spent this much time revising, I just went back to that moment and wanted to feel how I felt then. And I used this as my motivation to try harder. Now the second point I want to talk about is knowing when to revise. And I hate when your friends ask you, have you started revising yet? Because my philosophy is that you should always be revising. You should always be going back over content that you've already done in the past. For example, if you're halfway through year 11, compared to when you're at the beginning, you're probably going to forget a lot of the content you learned at the beginning. So you want to continue revising that content from the very beginning, so you never want to fall behind, as by the end of year 11 or by the end of whatever year you're at, you'll often forget the things you learned. So by creating a nice revision timetable that I'll probably be going about in another video, you'll be able to stay on top of your work and won't have to revise as hard during the intense exam revision period as everyone likes to do. And this helps you stay organised throughout the whole year, so you won't face as much stress and you'll be able to do a lot more things with your time. Now the third point is you need to do past papers. I can't stress this enough. Everyone who does well in GCSEs has done a huge amount of past papers. And you can get these past papers from a range of sources such as Physics and Maths Tutor, Maths Genie for Maths, ExamSolutions. There are loads of different YouTubers, websites and resources out on the internet that you can just download and practice. And doing this exam practice not only helps you recall all these facts that you've learnt in school, but it also helps you sharpen up your exam technique, which is ultimately what gets you all the marks in your exam. There are a lot of cases when people know all the facts to the question but can't get any marks, and that's mostly because they haven't done enough exam practice and they haven't written exactly what the specification wants. And number 4 is more about your mentality, and it's important not to worry about getting things wrong at the beginning, as you will get a lot of questions wrong and you will lose a lot of marks. I was getting 3s, 4s, 5s, but as I progressed through the year I was starting to get 7, 8s and 9s a lot more frequently. This just comes with experience and practice of doing questions. You should always work on your weaknesses as well, which I really found helpful. And one of my problems of mine was that I used to love focusing on my strengths, as we often like to do what we're good at and we often neglect what we're really bad at. And a really simple method to ask yourself what's your weakest subject or topic is, if the exam was tomorrow, what would I struggle on the most? And I learned this from Ali Abdaal. For me, it was a lot about, in physics, it was a lot about forces. In chemistry, it was a lot about fuel cells. And there's just a few examples that I can still remember now, as I kept asking myself that. And as you gain more experience and as you do more questions and you write down everything that you got wrong, hopefully these subjects will be less weak, so overall you'll perform a lot better than what you are currently. My fifth point is that you should know your course inside out in every single subject or exam you're taking. And you can literally do this by searching up, say you're doing maths with the OCR exam board, you could search up OCR maths GCSE specification, and you could download that PDF, print it out maybe, and you can literally see every single thing that the exam board could ask you on, and you can learn using that as your template, and you could use it as a sort of method to see if you're missing out any information, or if you're struggling on a certain topic, then you know what exactly they're going to ask you on. And it's so important that you revise from the specification, as teachers often teach you a lot of irrelevant content, and looking up stuff from the internet can also teach you so much irrelevant content that you'll never need in your GCSEs and probably not even A-levels. I really recommend sticking to the spec and making sure you know everything that it talks about. And to add a little bit more, you don't have to just use the spec, you can use loads of textbooks and resources. I've got a few CGP textbooks that have really helped me, and they pretty much contain the whole spec, and they're so good that I've bought more at A-level. One of these is just the physics ones, and I've got them for all my A-level subjects, as they contain the whole spec, so it's just really nice and easy to have it all condensed into a few hundred pages. My sixth point is something to do with past papers and past questions when you come to doing that as practice, and it's to note down any common questions that you may get. And at GCSE it's really common for similarly worded questions to come up every single year, and you can see this when going through past papers and looking through all the questions that you've done. You'll be able to recall certain themes and exact wordings of questions. Anything you get wrong, I'd recommend just writing down on a piece of paper, and I'd recommend writing the whole question out and the whole full mark answer, and you can nail every single point that the spec wants you to get. My seventh point is about coursework, and in some subjects such as history, DT, art, probably a few more, there's a lot of coursework content that you have to do over year 11 and year 10 maybe, and this makes up a percentage of the course, maybe 15%, 25%, it can go up or down from there, and it's really important that you do well in this and don't neglect it till the very end. Luckily I think I did quite well in the history one, where I was going through it throughout the year, but with my DT I sort of slacked a bit, and that's why I got an 8 instead of a 9 I think, and it was because of my coursework was holding me back, because I sort of left everything till the very end, and at DT you have to make a huge project, and to make mine in the amount of time I had was not really going to be at its highest standard, so I sort of had to throw everything together and hope for the best. Another thing about coursework is that you have something quite nice to fall back on, and even if your exam doesn't go that well, you can at least remember that your coursework went pretty good and you won't do so badly because of only the exam. So it's definitely something you should focus on. Now point 8 is about learning the content yourself and learning the spec, because no matter what subject you're in, you'll always be having to learn things by yourself, or you will not understand some concepts. And that's one of the large problems of learning, is because teachers do not know what you don't know. So it's really important that you ask friends, ask teachers, anything you don't understand in the lesson. There's no point in leaving it, say you're going to cover it in a few months or tomorrow or whatever. You should learn it right there and then. And if you decide not to actually ask the teacher, which I've done many times, then you can learn it by yourself, which is what I had to do for the majority of the time. And you can learn it using so many resources, but make sure, if you're using this method to learn it by yourself, that you actually go back over it, because I know so many people who say they all learn it and they just never do anything by themselves. So it's important that you have self-discipline and you actually stick with it, because I found that another thing about exams is whatever you don't know actually does come up in the exam, which is so annoying, but it actually really does happen, and you don't want to be in the real thing and something you don't know crops up. And my ninth point is to make the most of the internet. We have this amazing resource that a lot of people aren't taking advantage of. And you can use social media platforms such as YouTube to find out so many amazing channels that work so hard to provide the best content. And the good thing about all these channels is that they actually stick to the specification. They teach you exactly what you need to know, and some of them teach you exactly how you should answer questions and give you templates to answer. Primrose Kitten, Mr. Salles, Mr. Bruff, Freesciencelessons, Biology Carol. There are so many amazing YouTubers who help students, and it'd be a waste not to use them, as they act as a second teacher and can really consolidate your learning by going through past paper questions and teaching you concepts in more than one way, so you might understand it better and will remember it better in the long run. My 10th tip about revision and GCSEs in general is to avoid burnout and to take days off when you need. It's important that you work really hard for GCSEs, But it's also vital that you take rest days, you take rewards, you do everything that you still enjoy whilst revising, because the whole point of revision is to enjoy the process. If you're forcing yourself to revise every single day, you will not want to do it and you'll burn out extremely quickly, especially when it comes to exam season. So to avoid this, mix in exercise, mix in sports you like, mix in listening to music. You should do everything you still enjoy and try to incorporate it with your revision schedule to make it as fun as possible. So there are my 10 top tips for GCSEs in order to maximise your chances of getting 8s or 9s. I wish you the best of luck and hopefully you'll see more of this content in the future. So if you found this video helpful or valuable in any way, please consider subscribing and giving this video a like, as I'll be posting a lot more about GCSE and A-level content, so stay tuned for that. And I'll hopefully see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.